Welcome back to my little kitchen here in Lecce in the south of Italy. My name is Francesco, and as you may know, I'm Sicilian, and today I'm going to share with you the traditional Sicilian method for making melanzane alla parmigiana. Now, everyone thinks of this dish, especially in English-speaking countries where they know it as eggplant parmesan, as a recipe that actually uses parmesan cheese, but the name has nothing to do with Parmigiano, which is the name in Italian of parmesan. It has to do with the word Parmigiana, spelled with a C, which is Sicilian dialect for the slat in one of your Venetian blinds. And the name refers to the way that you lie the slices of eggplant one on top of another, the same way that your slats on your blind are laid one on top of another. And originally there was no parmesan involved at all in this. It was made using pecorino cheese, which is what people had in Sicily. What people didn't have way back when this was invented was an oven in their homes. There was a communal oven in the little towns back then where the bread would be baked, and when after the bread had been baked, the locals would bring other dishes that they wanted warmed and cooked through, and they would place them in the communal oven. So to make a dish like this, you would use a frying pan and you would make it at home on your stovetop, which is the way I'm going to show you to make it today. And it's a very simple recipe. There's no way I'm going to turn on my oven again after yesterday in this heat, so it's going to be perfect for a hot summer's day, and it's best enjoyed cool or even cold. It just tastes better. So I'm going to show you how to make it. I hope you enjoy the recipe. If you do, please give me a thumbs up, do leave a comment below, and do subscribe to the channel and come back and follow me for more. Let's cook. For today's recipe you are going to need eggplant, tomato passata, onion, garlic, basil, mozzarella or caciocavallo cheese, grated parmesan, pecorino or grana padano cheese, breadcrumbs, and a good extra virgin olive oil. The first thing we're going to do, of course, is to remove the end of the eggplant. But then there's the question of the peel. Do we peel it all? Do we leave the peel on? Well, in Sicily, what we usually do is take 4 long slices off the eggplant, either using a knife or a potato peeler, as you can see here, and then you have the perfect balance. And now we can get busy slicing. We're going to cut the eggplant into slices of about ½ centimeter thickness, as you can see here. Make sure that the slices are as even as possible. That's going to ensure that they cook evenly too. As far as salting the eggplant goes, I don't usually do it unless I notice that they have a lot of seeds. I don't find that they're bitter nowadays. The way they're cultivated, they're usually pretty mild. The next thing we're going to do is to peel and relatively finely chop our onion. And that's all of our prep work done for the moment. Now we can start heating up our griddle and add a little bit of olive oil to our saucepan, in which we're going to add our clove of garlic and the chopped onion. We're going to season with a good pinch of salt and stir until the onion starts to become slightly translucent. At this point we can go in with our passata, give the jar or the can a rinse, and add that water too. This was about ½ a bottle of passata. Add a few leaves of fresh basil, bring the passata up to the boil, and there we have our simple tomato sauce in the making. It's going to need to simmer for about 20 minutes. In the meantime, our griddle should be nice and hot and we can begin grilling the eggplant slices. Make sure to keep an eye on the tomato sauce and don't forget to season with plenty of freshly ground black pepper. Make sure to press down on the eggplant slices to squeeze out some of the juices and to get some good scorch marks. And as soon as the slices are nice and scorched like this, we can flip them over and cook them from the other side. They're going to take 3 or 4 minutes on each side. As soon as they're done, set them to one side to cool and go in with the others until you're all done. Traditionally, of course, the eggplant slices would be fried. Some people even batter them, but I much prefer this lighter and healthier version. In the meantime, whilst the sauce is simmering and the eggplant is grilling, we can take our mozzarella, cut it into cubes and leave it out to dry a little. Otherwise it will end up making the Parmigiana too soggy, and we don't want that. After about 20 minutes we want to taste our sauce and add some sugar accordingly. Normally it will end up being a little bit sour tasting if we don't do this. And now the real fun begins and we can begin assembling our Parmigiana. What we're going to do first in a cold frying pan is add a nice layer of good extra virgin olive oil. We're going to brush this around evenly and then add plenty of breadcrumbs on top. We want to have a nice even layer. This is going to become the crusty exterior of our Parmigiana. Next we're going to add a little bit of tomato sauce, just a few drizzles here and there. And remember, you don't want to have the flame turned on at this point. Now that we have the sauce down, we can begin layering the eggplant slices, one slightly overlapping the other, like so, until we have covered the whole of the base. It's important to get the bottom layer right. If the other layers are not done so carefully, that's not so important, but this is what's going to hold it together. Once we have a nice even layer of eggplant, we can begin adding the sauce. Not too much, you don't want the eggplant swimming in it. Trust me, if you add more than this, you'll end up having an eggplant soup. Now go ahead and add as much basil as you like. Add a little pinch of salt as the eggplant wasn't seasoned. Add plenty of freshly ground black pepper. And then go ahead and add your chopped mozzarella, your grated parmesan, pecorino or grana padano, a sprinkle of breadcrumbs to absorb any extra moisture, and then continue doing the same thing until you've used up all of your ingredients. Feel free to add more cheese if you so prefer. Some people even add ham in slices, and some even add hard-boiled eggs cut in slices, but I like to keep mine nice and simple and traditional and old-fashioned. And trust me, there's plenty of good flavour right here. When it comes to the final layer, make sure to add plenty of breadcrumbs on top. Now you can turn on the heat, put on the lid, and cook the Parmigiana on a moderate flame for about 10 or 15 minutes. Give it an occasional shake to make sure it's coming loose from the bottom of the pan. Use your spatula to press it into shape like this, pushing it away from the edges and making sure that you press it down nice and firmly whilst it steams in its own juices. After 15 minutes, we're going to lay a plate inside the pan and carefully flip it over, and if we're lucky, it will look something like this. That's why we need plenty of those breadcrumbs. We're now going to clean the pan, add a little more olive oil, turn off the heat, spread the oil around, and again coat this with even more breadcrumbs. They're going to give us that nice crust that we want on the outside. Now carefully slide the Parmigiana back into the pan, turn on the heat, put on the lid and cook from the other side for another 10 or 15 minutes. Keep giving your pan a little shake to make sure it comes nice and loose from the base, and here you can see why you don't want to be adding too much sauce. Otherwise, it's just not going to work. This is perfectly fine. All the goodness is inside. There's plenty of tomato, basil, cheese and garlic flavour right there, along with the taste of the eggplant itself. It's truly delicious. After about half an hour, add a last sprinkle of breadcrumbs on the one side because we're going to flip it again, and this will go to fill in any of the places that the Parmigiana may have cracked apart. Put on the lid so the steam will make them soften slightly, and then do the same thing. Put your plate on top, carefully flip it over and put it in for one last time for a final 5 minutes. As you can see, you also don't need to be adding that much oil. This is a much healthier and lighter version of a Parmigiana. And now we're going to give it 5 more minutes, and then we can either eat it hot, but I much prefer it to be served lukewarm or even cold. And when it's done, it looks like this. This is the way it was made in the old days, but we can do a little bit better today. As you saw, there was plenty of sauce left over, so I decided to add a nice layer on top. And then I went ahead and added the leftover diced mozzarella, a nice sprinkle of pecorino on top, and then all it needs is a nice sprig of basil to turn it into a little work of art. Absolutely gorgeous. The other good thing about letting it cool off is that it becomes much firmer and much easier to cut into portions. I'd say this is a pretty perfect Parmigiana for a hot summer's day. And trust me, it really does taste much better cold. Buon appetito! Enjoy!